presented by the top defense if you've been injured, Catches Law Group. At Catches, you pay nothing unless they win. They are the official law firm of the New England Patriots, and Devin McCourty joins us on the Harbor One hotline. Hey, Devin.
Good morning.
How you doing?
I'm doing well. I'm actually gearing up. Once I get off the phone, I'm headed to Boston to see you guys tonight.
Correct. We are going to be celebrity bartending this evening, raising money for the American Cancer Society. Did you happen to? I mean, I don't know if you had to do any work at all in college, but have you ever bartended?
Yeah. What do you mean? Have I ever bartended? I bartend at your events.
Well, yeah, I know celebrity bartender, but you have help doing that. I wonder. I just want to know if the bar was ever your own. If you had, I mean, can you make a complicated beverage?
Heck no. You don't come to me for that.
Can you pour a beer?
Yeah.
Because that is the most difficult.
Yeah. Well, probably not. I can only make strong drinks.
There you
so
go.
Come to me when you want that hard alcohol tonight.
There you go.
And Devin,
I'll be careful this evening when handing you a glass because I'm afraid you might drop it.
Oh. So mean.
That was a pretty good one.
Listen. You were here with Bill for 13 seasons. Was Sunday the most embarrassing loss of his career in your mind?
Well, in my time there, yeah, we haven't, lost like that. I mean, I would argue the playoff game against Buffalo because I would argue that was my worst loss as a Patriot, just being there in Buffalo. It was that 2021 season, no stops on defense. To me, that was the most embarrassing. Obviously, Sunday was bad, but I wasn't out there, so I'm not sure how those guys felt. I know as a player, I felt terrible when we lost to Buffalo, the way we lost.
Dev, one of the things that we've been talking about, and it's always maddening to me, and I put it more on players than I do the coach, and especially with this team, is people are saying these guys are not buying in. Is that something that you believe? Are they not buying into whatever Bill's message is? Because they just look flat, like there's no energy there, and sometimes it looks like whatever Bill's saying to them is going in one ear out the other.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a very, loose term that everybody uses. Like, when you say not buying in, it's just like, what are you not buying into? Like, I've never been on a team where guys aren't, complaining about something that you're doing as a team. Like, that always happens, but there's guys still willing to do it. I think, I've said it before, I think the hard thing with the team is now is it's not really built through the draft and guys that have been there, guys that have been there haven't turned into all right, I got drafted here, I signed a second contract, or I'm in year 4 trying to come back here and being a leader. It's a lot of their best players are guys that came from other programs that have seen things done differently and been successful other places. So I think that sometimes leads to people thinking that there's no buy-in. But I don't know, when I talk to guys, I don't hear guys saying man, this guy's late, this guy's not coming to this guy. To me, that's the buy-in when you're just openly disrespecting what the team values, what they're doing. I haven't heard that from the guys, but I think it's an easy thing to say now that you don't have a bunch of guys that are, preaching Patriot way, or I came here and I learned from this guy who was here before. They've lost a little bit of that, and I think that's why people kind of jump to that there's no buy-in from the team.
A caller earlier who was standing up for Mac Jones asked if Mac Jones forgot how to play football from his rookie season till now. You were there. Why was Mac's rookie season so much better than it has been the last couple of years for him?
The team was better. I saw Dan. I didn't watch the All 22, but I saw Dan Orlovsky tweeted, "I just watched the Patriots All 22. It would be hard for anybody to play quarterback for that team after watching that film Sunday." And I think that is the thing. I've said it before, quarterbacks get all the praise when the team's winning. So Mac's rookie year, he comes in. The year before, we don't go to the playoffs. He comes in, plays good football. We go to the playoffs. It's kind of like, man, this guy turned everything around. He's this, he's that. And then fast forward, it's like, oh, no, he's bad. He's this. And it's just because the team's not winning. And I think that is the number one thing that, when you're a quarterback, you probably get too much praise when the team wins, and you get too much blame when the team loses. And I think as good as Brady was, he even got that in Tampa. Like when they weren't winning in Tampa or we weren't winning in New England, everybody, in 2014, it was like, take Tom Brady out. He's done. He's holding the team back. And I remember being a player, and I was like, damn, Tom Brady's holding us back? Wow, that's a new one. But I think it goes to show that you sometimes get way too much blame, and I won't put Brady in the category of getting too much praise. But, I think that happens sometimes for quarterbacks. But I think for Mac, like, he has to be resilient right now. Like, it's not going well. The team probably, it's a struggle right now in that locker room. I'm not there. I didn't talk to guys this week. But I got to imagine, like, I've been there on a losing streak over these last couple of years, and this is probably the worst it's been. Like, that's hard. Each day coming into work when you expect to win, you expect to do things. You do things the hard way there. So he has to just be resilient. And remember, he's a captain. He's a leader. He has to be all those things first before he worries even about his own individual things.
Devin, the thing that really was shocking to me was the shutout following the 38-3 loss on national TV against the Cowboys. What does that say to you that the team was so flat after being so publicly embarrassed?
Yeah, I think the hard thing was, I think we watched the Dallas game and we're kind of like, Dallas has some guys that are just, they're guys. They're really good players. They can make plays all over the field. And Dallas had been, playing good ball. The hard thing is you watch New Orleans. I think everyone coming into the game was like, I don't know if the Patriots are going to win, but this is going to be a pretty even matchup. Both these teams kind of have good defenses. They both struggled on offense, and then you come to the game and you're like, wow, like they got stomped out early and often in the game. And I think that was the bad thing. But I think if I was in the locker room, I think the thing I would say is like a loss is a loss. No matter how much you lose by, how the game goes, it still goes down as an L in the win and loss column. Let's just focus on what we can do now. And I think that's easier said than done for me on the outside of the locker room. But I think that was probably the worst part about that loss is I don't think anyone looks at New Orleans as like this juggernaut to come in and beat you the way that they beat them. And I think, when you try to move forward in the week, you can say all the good things, but it's going to come down to, I think, some of those guys just deciding like, hey, I'm going to go out and make the first play in the game that gets us going, because that is the key to not being flat, is making plays in the game. You can come out, you play the best hype music, you come out yelling and screaming, you get punched in the mouth first play of the game, first series of the game over and over again each week. It doesn't matter how much you yell in pregame. Like, somebody's got to go make a play to start the game.
Benched in back-to-back weeks, though. I know come out flat, you got to make a play. He's had early pick sixes or fumble strip scores from the Dallas game. Would you be looking for a change if you were on this team, just to sort of wake up the offense, whether it's Zappe or Malik Cunningham on Sunday?
I mean, I wouldn't be surprised, but we can't ignore, like, Zappe got in the game, and you can't walk away and say, like, hey, this is the guy that needs to be playing quarterback right now. Like, I love both those guys, but the way the game went for Mac, obviously 2 weeks in a row wasn't good. Zappe gets in there Sunday, misses 2 throws. Like that, to me, that's not helpful either, but I think there is something to what you said. If you're in that locker room and you just feel like we need some kind of boost, if it's quarterback, it's got to be something. And, for me being there for 13 years, when you lose, the one thing that is going to happen when you lose is change. So I don't know if it's going to be quarterbacking, but somewhere I would expect Sunday there's going to be some different things, whether it's the way they call the game on offense and defense and special teams, or if it's personnel, I would expect changes.
Well, there are some that speculate that if they keep losing, the change is Bill Belichick. Can you ever see that happening end of this season?
Oh no, that's a tall task. I think if you do that, like I wouldn't want to take the team over. Like I wouldn't want to be the next guy to coach a team and be like, hey, making the playoffs one out of these last 4 years is so bad we got to fire this guy and blah blah blah. Because then the guy that comes in next year, what is your expectation? To win 12 games? To win? I wouldn't want that job. Could I see it happening? I wouldn't expect it to happen. But I'll always say this: in the National Football League, you can't ever say like that'll never happen. It's not realistic in the business that we're in. So, but I wouldn't expect to see a change at the end of the season.
Can you see Bill ever? Our guy Edelman brought this up the other day. Can you see Bill ever accepting a reassignment of duties where he is essentially no longer the GM or is not involved when it comes to picking players?
So I've never talked to him about that, like how that kind of came about and how that operates. But I could just see from a longevity and age standpoint of let me just take on less and let me focus on this or that. I think over the last few years, there's been so much change there. When Matt Patricia left and went to Detroit, other guys stepped up, Brian Flores, and stepped up as a defensive coordinator. And then the next year, Chad O'Shea leaves, Brian Flores leaves, Brendan Daly leaves, Josh Boyd. Like, we had so many people leave. Then Nick Casario leaves, then Dave Ziegler leaves, and Josh. So I could see him just saying, you know what, like, I need a break. Like, since 2017, he's just taken on more and more. And it's not like they've just replaced everybody by hiring a bunch of new faces. Like, that hasn't happened. It's just been kind of elevations of guys taking on sometimes more roles than probably needed or a lot to handle. So I think that I wouldn't be against that happening for the team. I think that could possibly help them.
Devin, when you hear guys like David Andrews saying that they're getting it done during practice, they feel prepared, but then it's just not computing when it comes to Sunday on the field. What goes into that? Why does that happen? If they feel prepared and ready to go all week and then Sunday they can't get it done, what is the main issue there?
So this is counter to what people believe in, right? They say in New England, one of the big things is practice execution makes game reality. I don't necessarily believe that, because practice execution is against the practice squad. It's against the guys that are fighting to get better, to improve, to hopefully one day be on the NFL roster. Sunday's against all pro players, Pro Bowl players, guys in the National Football League. So, like, I've been in games where I've heard a guy say to me, like, I don't get it why I'm playing bad today. Like, I practiced well all week. And I'm kind of looking at him like, yeah, bro, like, we talked about what we're about to practice against, and then it comes up in practice. Of course, like, the game's different. Like, they might have practiced something all week. All of those things that go into playing a game is so different than practice. Obviously, you want to practice well. It gives you a chance on Sunday, but Sunday is Sunday. You have to come out, do what you practice, but you have to do it against a guy who's probably, better than the guy, but sometimes that guy's way better. When you play the New Orleans Saints, like, I don't care who really lines up at defensive end. When you line up now against Cam Jordan, he's a different player. Like, that, you're going against somebody way better. So you really have to execute at a high level, whereas I think sometimes in practice you can do things well, but you might not be doing it well enough to go out there on Sunday, and that might be something that the team is experiencing because, again, Sunday's just different than practice. That's why some guys are really good in practice, and then you get to the game and you're like, well, that guy's not that good on game day, and that's been the story all throughout. I think Wiggy's probably experienced the same thing while he was in the league.
Plus, there's no cards. Remember that. There's no cards on Sunday.
There's no cards.
Yeah, they ain't holding up no cards. Okay, here comes the route combination you're expecting. There ain't no cards being held up on Sunday. Dev, one of the things that I like, I'm so far removed from the game, and I've been thinking about this because I want to get your insight on it. Is kind of like two parts. Can Bill relate to these players as a coach with the new generation? And is there a guy in that locker room? Now, I know guys respect players, but I remember when we had Willie Mack, it was a respect and fair element to the way he led because he held himself accountable, but he also held you accountable as a player. And if you weren't buying in and you were going in a different direction, like there was a chance, like, hey, you might get your ass whooped. Are there still guys, are there guys in that locker room that walk like that? Because I think Judon was one of those players, but I never played with him. So does he have that element of respect and fear?
The first part of that, I don't think Bill relates to those guys from that standpoint because I didn't relate to those guys. Like I felt a lot of times like, damn, I'm old. Being in here, like some of the music you listen to, how the guys talk at times. I was 35 last year. I felt old. Bill's 71. Mm-hmm. So there's definitely a wide gap of like when you say relates to. Now, can he coach them and show them how to play the game of football? No doubt about it. But I think there is definitely a gap on relating to guys that I think like you watch Miami with Mike McDaniel. He relates to some of those guys a little bit because he still probably listens to some of the hip hop music and all those different things that when you actually talk about, because I look at relate to like that relationship outside of football. Can we laugh and joke? Can we talk the kind of same lingo? Mm-hmm. I think there's guys that had that, I don't think that was probably ever Bill's specialty when you kind of break it down anyway. But I do think when you talk about that second part, I think my time in New England, we had like Vince Wilfork, who was a guy that would laugh and joke a little bit. But a lot of times, like when you got into that, Friday, Saturday, Sunday kind of mode, he wasn't really playing. Like he'd tell you in the middle of the game, get this out. Like he was very direct. Hightower was like that. I think between Judon and Bentley, you do have a little bit of that. I think Ben is a guy that jokes around, but like he could be very serious and demanding. But I think the reverence that when you get like when I got to New England, Gerard Mayo and Vince Wilfork and Logan Mankins and Brady, like when I got there, it was like, oh, like these guys are like New England Patriot royalty. You come in and you want to be like them. I think, again, like I said earlier, when you don't have a lot of guys or your best players being the guys that started there, when they come to a team, when free agents come to a team, they don't look at players the same because they played against those guys. They competed. They probably thought differently in a different locker room of that guy compared to when you come in. Like you come into New England when Julian Edelman was there. You think of Julian Edelman as like, man, 7th round draft pick, worked his butt off. Oh my goodness, he's what I want to be. If you played against him, you're probably like, he's an a-hole. He competes hard. He blocks too. Like you just think differently. So when you get into the locker room, you don't have that same kind of, I'm going to listen to this guy because I want to be like him. And I think that's where they lack a little bit of having that kind of guy that instills fear and all of that. I think they don't have from the followers. I don't think they have that kind of like, man, I just want to be like this guy. I'm motivated and inspired to be like him. I think they lack that a little bit just because you don't have that. Like when you come into a team, no matter how many Pro Bowls or all pros they have, the way that team views them, the coaching staff, the front office, you get that full blast, and you don't get that when you come from other teams.
Bill needs to walk in there and spit some Eminem rhymes.
No, Eminem's too old. He's need to be on that ski, that sexy red I told you.
Red velvet.
Hey, you could tell right there, Greg has no chance to relate to the guy.
Hell no.
Unfortunately, I'm in the same position as Bill.
This is not 2005, Greg.
Greg knows who Sexy Red is, but not for her music.
I'm a little long in the tooth myself, Devin.
I love big red gum.
We'll find that out tonight. But I still look pretty good for 56, I think. I mean, to be honest.
57 in less than a month.
That won't help you in the locker room, though.
All right, you're the best. We will talk to you again next week, and Courtney and I will see you tonight at the Capitol Grill for the American Cancer Society, and I can't wait.
Oh, should be fun times, guys.
What do you want somebody to get a drink? You want somebody to challenge you with like something complicated, like we were talking about Long Island iced teas the other day, or.
Just give me the Hennessy and
Coke.
Coke.
We're not gonna have like little teeny boppers there with Long Island iced tea.
Oh, that's a hard one to make.
Greg wants some Hennessy on the rocks.
All right,
yeah, we'll get you some VSOP, Greg.
All right. I'm down with whatever that is.
When it's brown, it goes down.
All right, Dev, we'll see you tonight, bud.